TSM and Team Liquid are going to face off in the losers bracket of the mid-season showdown to then see who goes against Cloud9 in the finals of the winners bracket. Now, as far as Team Liquid is concerned, there's been some breaking news, essentially, that Santorin has tweeted out that he won't be participating in the match against TSM, at least for the first game, if not for the entire series, due to health reasons. Nothing too crazy, just a banging migraine or something like that. Now, who will be subbing in is Armeo, who previously was known as Grig. And so he'll be subbing in for Santorin in the jungle. And as we know, he also subbed in for Santorin before Santorin was even here over in the lock-in tournament. So he's had a little bit of time with the Team Liquid main roster, but that was a long time ago. So now we're in a different meta, but now many people might be speculating, well, this isn't so bad because Santorin certainly wasn't looking good against Cloud9, their previous matchup over in the winners bracket just last weekend. And I would agree with that statement. He wasn't looking that good. But then again, I think most of that was due to large part in the drafts not helping them all out. But yeah, Team Liquid didn't look that great regardless anyways. So let's pull up the bracket here just to show you. So Team Liquid is obviously facing against TSM in the lower bracket, and then they move up just as a quick little visual. Now, I think it makes sense now that I think about it, though, that Santorin said he wasn't feeling well since last Friday, which was before his match against Cloud9. So that might be a little bit of the reason as to why he had kind of the slip up of just remarkably unusual performance from him. So we could maybe attribute that to where, well, now they're missing their main part of their roster. And so things are just not looking so good. And so Armeo's coming in, and actually he's been keeping up with the meta, and Team Liquid Academy are looking like one of the stronger teams in the amateur circuit, at least according to the spring split finish of second, and then their second place finish over in Arena of Legends. Actually, no, I think they placed first in that. And then although they are currently knocked out in the proving grounds. So there's at least some security in that sense that Armeo is he's not complete shit. So obviously he should be able to hang. This isn't obviously his first rodeo within the LCS. Grig over in TSM, of course, as he was known for. So I don't think this is the worst situation that can happen to Team Liquid, but it certainly isn't, ideal, I guess. And so what I'm afraid of during this matchup is that Armeo's previously passive style showing up, right? Because back in TSM, he was quite a passive jungler. And I think Spica will actually do well against him, in fact, just because Spica has been doing pretty good and looking a little bit more aggressive. And luckily, though, Armeo actually gets a little warm up against Spica before, potentially facing off against Blabber, right? So I think this is a good chance for Armeo to kind of get his feet wet against Spica and, see if he can actually hang with this and maybe give himself a little confidence boost too, rather than just be thrown to the lions. So overall, I would certainly give this matchup to Spica, in fact, and I just think he's playing really well. And, like DMX, I too think that Spica will stop, drop, shut him down, open up shop, Sorry, I just made a drug reference to counter jungling. But now all you kids actually know what those lyrics actually mean. So anyways, we'll move on to the top lane. with Huni and Alfari. So I think this matchup is a little bit one-sided, in fact, and surprisingly towards Huni, because I think Alfari was playing very disrespectful against Fudge in his previous matchup and seemed to not be able to get a substantial lead against Fudge. And Fudge held his own. And not only that, but Alfari was playing quite disrespectful, of course. So I just think this is a moment to where maybe both Huni and Spica, in fact, can expose Alfari in a sense, right? Expose might be the wrong word because then that implies that he's bad. But so I think Alfari did get the best of Huni during the quarterfinals winners bracket, run-in that they had before. But I don't think that's enough given what actually happened within the Cloud9 series. And I do feel like Alfari will get punished top because TSM, they were playing towards top before against Team Liquid, and with a weaker jungler as well too, it looks like Alfari just might get taken advantage of. So I would actually put Huni winning this matchup in favor. So moving on to mid, Power of Evil versus Jensen. Jensen looked pretty bad in their series against Cloud9, but then looked really good when they faced TSM, with his Ahri pick and whatnot. So there's kind of like this weird conundrum that you have going on of which Jensen is actually going to show up against TSM once again. But I would actually not be very surprised if Jensen performed adequately or of service or even just very good, because I think as long as they don't get baited into Silas, I think Team Liquid stand a pretty good chance within the mid lane. Because to be fair, Team Liquid's drafts against Cloud9 were absolutely atrocious. I mean, you had melee champs into Rise in one game. You had Jensen get mind controlled into picking Silas for some reason in a comp that really didn't make sense. And then he did finally just have bad Orianna play in the last game. So yeah, there are some faults of Jensen to be sure, and that's not downplaying them entirely. But I think most people can overall agree that Team Liquid's drafts is what put them at a severe disadvantage in that entire series. And it just wasn't really a good look, right? So I would like to see them shore that up. And a good thing is that PoE style isn't as flexible as Perks. So I don't think there's actually going to be a draft kingdom that's going to happen within this series, at least in particular to the mid lane as well too. So, but I would actually put this entire matchup as pretty even, in fact. I don't think, even if Jensen is going to be looking on form and whatnot, I don't think that he's going to be able to take advantage of PoE, especially because of just his limited jungle, right? So his jungler's not actually going to be able to set him up quite as much. And you could see previously in the previous series against TSM, in fact, that he did have a lot of help, both from the jungle, but also from Core JJ as well too. And I just don't think that's going to coalesce as well as it did before. So let's move on to the bot lane. I want to just comprise this, completely with Lost and Sword Art versus Tactical and Core JJ. So now I think what's actually going to happen is that Tristana is going to be permaban for Team Liquid, because I mean, in fact, it was permabanned in their match against Cloud9, with Team Liquid constantly banning it no matter what side that they were on. And I think this just goes to show that Team Liquid don't have confidence in Tactical being able to play it, or Jensen being able to play it as a flex pick. So they just have done away with the pick entirely. And Obviously, tactical just not looking good on the pick itself. So I think this is certainly one of the big weaknesses for Team Liquid, and that it's going to kind of hamstring them in the draft. And I don't think that tactical is actually looking that great. He's certainly not really carried any games anyways. So I don't have a whole lot of faith in Team Liquid's bot lane. Although Core JJ actually still looks pretty good, especially against TSM, where I said he abused Power of Evil. So it's not entirely bad for Team Liquid's bot lane, but I do think TSM's bot lane can just kind of help the late game in that sense, and in fact be a more threatening presence. And on top of that, I don't think that with Core JJ's roams and then the mismatch of the jungle, that it's actually going to help Jensen, in fact, in the mid lane, or even Alfari in the top lane. So I don't think Core JJ's roams are going to be as effective as they previously were. So that's why I would give this matchup up to TSM in regards to the bot lane. So now you all might be wondering why I haven't talked about TSM versus 100 Thieves. I think we can all just kind of sweep that one under the rug and just say 100 Thieves are just a fundamentally very flawed team, and they don't even have some of the basic fundamentals down of how to play the game. And they are so disoriented just from, their mid lane shuffle and seemingly not knowing which lane to play towards, even dependent upon their champion picks, like Jace, for instance. So I just think that series, you can kind of just brush off and just say, yeah, TSM, in fact, did what they were supposed to do. But that's not necessarily a boon to say that TSM is, in fact, a fantastic team, right? It was just a weakened state of 100 Thieves, and you kind of expected that result, and it was a very unentertaining series in that sense. So let's move on to the draft for this series. I think draft, I expect Seraphine to be permabanned, red side, in fact, so that blue side will never have to ban Seraphine, because that will be a first pick no matter what, pretty much. And both TSM and Team Liquid prioritize Hecarim quite a bit, so I expect that to only slip through maybe once, depending upon if they want to experiment with the whole Seraphine or Hecarim type bait and switch. So that could be a possibility to where red side, in fact, doesn't ban Seraphine, and then they're able to get Hecarim afterwards, and hopefully another power pick too. But it's kind of a bit risky to let Seraphine go over to blue side, which I think is going to happen almost every time if Seraphine is up, rather than them picking the Hecarim in this instance. So that'll be very interesting to see. Now, FBI and Sword Art have not played Senna, so I think that is probably going to be a permaban for TSM, considering that would allow Tactical to play a more conservative style, since he's just not playing that well, right? So he gets to kind of chill back, be a supportive champion with Senna and heal, and just let Jensen or Alfari carry the game. So I think that is actually a permaban status for TSM, and they've often, in fact, banned Senna, against the enemy team if the enemy team actually plays it. So overall, I do think that TSM take this, especially considering the jungle substitution, because that's just kind of a random up in the air thing, and that's very bad to do, over into the playoffs. And Tactical isn't playing very well. Alfari isn't playing that great. Jensen probably won't have too much trouble, considering I think the draft actually limited him quite a bit against Cloud9. And then I think Spica is actually looking pretty good, and Huni is definitely in form. So I don't believe that it's all sunshine and rainbows for TSM though, because they haven't really tightened up their objective control or just, they're pre-planning for objectives. But then again, no team besides Cloud9 have really been able to do that, all split anyways. So with that said, I do give the major edge to TSM, just considering the whole roster thing with Team Liquid. And I think that the series is going to pan out 3-1 TSM.